All right, everyone. So this is part 3 of the series that I have been doing about being a sugar burner versus a fat burner and how you can break away from, those energy drops that you feel or the cravings that you're suffering through or that feeling of just feeling tired and bloated and like you have no energy. And I've talked about this in 2 previous videos, so if you missed those, you can go back, scroll down my page a little bit. There was a part 1 where I talked about the difference between being a fat burner and a sugar burner. And then there was a part 2 where I went into a little bit more information about what happens inside your body when you ingest sugary and carb-loaded foods, how your body takes those in, and how it leads to things like type 2 diabetes. And today I'm going to talk to you about how you can start transitioning yourself from being a sugar burner into a fat burner, and what are some foods that you can start to incorporate into your diet daily that will help you start to get on that path of burning fat instead of being a sugar burner and dropping in energy all the time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to try and be as brief as I possibly can and give you some information along the way that you will find helpful. The very first thing I want to talk about that I've actually touched on in the previous 2 videos is, the old school food pyramid that came out from the United States government was so wrong and backward because it used to have grains at the bottom. And it talked about we should have 6 to, I think it was 11 servings of grains. And what we have come to discover over time is that grains and carbs, those things spike our insulin level and cause us to feel lethargic and cause us to crave those things more and more, and they really don't have a ton of nutritional value. So we're not getting any nutrition out of it, but yet we're constantly craving, and they have caused most of us to turn into these sugar burning people. So instead, you need to change your mindset and think of the bottom of that pyramid should be your vegetables. The bulk of what you eat should be vegetables. And I know there are people that say, I hate vegetables, I don't like vegetables. And by the way, I'm not talking about corn. Corn is very starchy, that doesn't count. I'm talking about vegetables that are a lot of green, leafy. Okay, those are your best ones, but they're not the only ones. And there's little ways that you can sneak vegetables into your diet that help. For example, I've done it twice today. I've snuck vegetables in twice without actually sitting and having a serving full of vegetables. So one way that I did it was when I made my shake this morning, I put spinach in my shake. You never taste it once you grind that shake up. So I got a serving of green leafy spinach in my shake first thing this morning without my body really even knowing it. I mean, of course my body knows it, but I didn't taste it. The other thing that I did to get some vegetables in is for lunch, I often have eggs, so I get some good source of protein throughout the day. And I chop up green peppers, green onions, sometimes I'll throw spinach in, mushrooms, tomatoes. I throw all that stuff in the pan with some olive oil first, so I'm also getting some healthy fat in. I throw all of it in, let it cook up and get a little soft, and I throw my eggs on top of it, and I could make an omelet, but I'm a horrible omelet flipper, so I just mash all the eggs up, and I'm getting servings of vegetables mixed in with my eggs. You can even throw a little bit of cheese in there if you need that cheesy thing, just a little bit. But there you go, and there was 2 servings of vegetables, and I haven't even sat down and had a plate of vegetables yet. So if you are somebody that thinks, I cannot eat vegetables, I do not like them, first of all, I'm going to push you to get outside of your comfort zone and try some different ones, because there could be vegetables out there that you like that you've never tried before. Do you know that I had never eaten a Brussels sprout ever until about a year ago, and now I love them because I found a way to make them that I like, and I eat them all the time. So it's a matter of trying things. But the bulk of what you eat should be vegetables. The next level of what you eat, so thinking of that pyramid shape, vegetables are at the bottom, the longest, widest section. The next level up should be your proteins. And your proteins can come from lots of different sources. Most often, though, they come from meat, and they come from eggs, and they come from fish. Okay, they can also come from nuts, are another good source of protein. Hummus, because it's made out of chickpeas, is a good source of protein. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. When it comes to your meat, and I didn't mention this when I was talking about vegetables, but I will mention it when I get to the fruit section, which is coming soon. But when you are talking about meat, there are different levels of meat that you need to be looking for. When you are eating meat, you want to be eating grass-fed beef, if it's beef. And the reason why is because if you are not eating grass-fed beef, then you are eating beef. Well, there's several reasons on this one, but you are eating beef that has been fed lots and lots of grains, okay? Cows eat grass, okay? They don't eat grains. And so what happens is when cows are given grains, they get inflammation in their body just like people do. You know, they do. And then they have to be given all these antibiotics. So when you are eating just conventional meat, a lot of times that meat isn't grass-fed, and they have been treated with lots and lots of hormones, which then you ingest. So grass-fed meat is best. If you can. Organic would be second best, but you have to be careful because sometimes it can be organic. I'm just looking at my notes right here because organic beef has to come from cows, and they don't get the antibiotics or growth hormones, but they do get fed grains. So there again, you're getting that into your body. And truthfully, they could be getting 80% of their diet could be grains, and only 20% could qualify as organic. So organic is kind of a funny label that you have to be careful with. Just because you see organic slapped on something doesn't mean it's always the best for you, just because of the way we label things here in our country. So grass-fed beef is best. When it comes to fish, if you're using fish for protein, you want to always stick with wild-caught fish. Farm raised fish have been given who knows what. I mean, I just was reading an article this morning about some of the fish and how they are fed like literally poop. Who wants that? Like, who wants to eat a fish that has eaten poop? You don't want that. You want fresh, wild-caught fish. They are your best source of protein when it comes to fish. Same thing with eggs. If you're eating eggs, you want to have pastured eggs the best, because that means that those chickens have been able to roam free and eat what they are naturally supposed to be eating. They're not being fed they're not being fed other things that are not natural to them. You want them to be eating, because remember, you are what you ate. If you think about that, you are what you ate. So whatever you're eating, you're getting from whatever they ate. So just remember that. So then the next level up after that, so you've got vegetables on the bottom, then you've got your meat, your fish, your eggs, your protein sources. The next level up is your healthy fats. Okay, and this is where a lot of people get tripped up, because they hear fat and they immediately think, wait, I'm trying to lose weight. Why would I want to eat fat? But notice I said healthy fats, and I would love for this to be called something else, but it isn't. It's called fat, but it's different. It doesn't have a negative connotation. It shouldn't have a negative connotation with it. These are things like avocados is probably one of my favorite. Again, if you don't love avocado, throw it in your shake in the morning, because you don't even taste it. It makes it nice and creamy. But avocados, any kind of, if you cook with coconut oil, olive oil, that's a healthy fat. You can sprinkle olive oil on top of your salad. You can put it on your vegetables. Nuts, seeds are also another source. Butter, do not be afraid of grass-fed natural butter. Okay, that is good for you, obviously in moderation, but that is good for you. Those are all good things that your body needs. Your body needs to have those fats. Don't be afraid of them. Think of them more as like a dietary fat, something that your body needs in order for your cells to do what they are supposed to do. So that should be your third level. Then after that, that's when we get into your fruits. Now, with fruit, there are a couple different types of fruits that are the best for you if you're trying to choose fruit, because they're a little bit lower in the sugar content. Any type of berry should be like your number one thing. Not only are they low in sugar, but they are also just jam-packed with all types of good vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, things that your body needs. Cherries are another good one for the similar reason. But really, any fruit is good for you, but you want to limit your fruit servings to 2 to 3 a day. So some people go overboard on fruit. It's too much sugar. Remember, anytime your body is taking in too much sugar, that's when you become the sugar burner. So I'm not telling you to avoid fruits. I'm just telling you to keep that in moderation. Then comes at the very top of that pyramid, or almost the very top, that's where we are putting in your carbs, okay? And I'm not telling you not to have any carbs, but I'm telling you that they should be very low, and they should be carbs that are better for you. For example, sweet potatoes are a great carb that you can have. Even the grains like quinoa is another good source for you to have. Wild rice is an excellent one for you to have. You can even have regular potatoes, again, in moderation. That should be the smallest amount. There are days where I will go without any carbs, and that's totally fine. My body functions that way. Not everybody can do that, so you sort of have to play around with it. Now, having said all of that, how in the world do you all of a sudden start doing this? Okay, first of all, you need to give yourself some grace. You need to know that you don't just all of a sudden totally change your diet like that. It doesn't happen that way. It takes time, and you need to give yourself grace, and you need to know that there are going to be days when you just can't, like you're struggling to just get through your day, and if you have to try and add in something or change something, it's going to be too much, and that's okay. It's a process. What I recommend to people when they're trying to start to transition from that sugar burner to that fat burner is that we start by adding in things. We don't take anything away out of the gate. We just start by adding in things. And it's individual to each person. For example, if somebody's eating like no vegetables, then that's what we're going to start to add in. Okay, if somebody is eating, no healthy fats, then we're going to start to add that in. We're not going to touch anything else, but we start to add those things in. And then what ends up happening is when you add in some of those good things that we talked about, then you start to feel fuller, you start to have a little bit more energy, you start to feel better, and guess what you don't want? You don't want some of those sugary, carb-loaded foods. When that starts to happen, then you're ready for the next level. And so maybe you start to try a variety of vegetables, or you start to put in a vegetable with every meal if you weren't doing that previously. Or maybe if you were eating, like a ton of fruit, you start to swap out one of your fruit servings for a vegetable. If you have been, trained that you always have to have a carb on your plate at every single meal, maybe you take one of those carbs away at one of your meals until it's not a big deal, and then you can do a second meal, or you replace it with something like a sweet potato that might be a little bit better than what you're currently having. So the name of the game is not to just totally cold turkey and change everything, because you're going to get frustrated. You're going to go through a withdrawal, just like we talked about how sugar and carbs, they're addicting. You are addicted. You are truly, truly addicted. And just like you wouldn't expect, or just like a drug addict would go through withdrawal if you took away whatever their drug of choice was, that's going to happen to you too. You're going to get headaches. You're going to have days when you're frustrated. You're going to have days when you just feel like you can't do it. And that's okay as long as you keep going and you don't quit and you say, okay, I know why I'm doing this. I know why it's important. I know that I need to keep pushing forward. I know that for every time I step back, I need to take 2 steps forward. And so when you are trying to do this, it's not a matter of totally depriving yourself. You should never, ever, ever feel deprived. But instead, it's a matter of adding things in. And then after you get to that point where you're really getting good at adding in the good stuff, then you start to make those swaps. You start to take out something and put something in place of it. So first we add, then we start to swap. Because then once you start to do that, it's a gradual process. And once you get really good at adding and swapping, that's when you take a really good look and you say, okay, where can I be better? Where do I need to add some things in? Where do I still need to take some things out? Because by then you're talking, maybe 4-6 weeks into this, you're feeling like a rock star. Like you're feeling so much better that you are able to say, okay, I don't need to eat that sugary thing or that carb-loaded thing. I don't need it because I'm going to fuel my body in this way. And I just kind of want to close this out by saying, this has been a long process for me. This is probably, probably 2 years in the making of trying to change my diet, and I'm not perfect. I mean, I love potato chips like the next person, and I have those potato chips sometimes, but they're strategically placed, and it's taken me a long time to get there. There are things that I have completely taken out that I love, but I didn't do that overnight. For example, as far as snacking goes, since we're talking about snacking, I was like the pretzel queen. Like, I love pretzels. Love them. Love, 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 love. I haven't had a pretzel in, I don't even know how long. A long time. Probably 6 months. That's a long time for me. But I couldn't have just given up pretzels in the beginning. I couldn't. I had to understand what those were doing to my body. I had to understand why they weren't good for me. I had to have things in place instead of the pretzels, so that I wouldn't be tempted to reach for them. And I have found things that I can put in place that still give me that crunchy, salty look or feel that I'm going for. But these things take time. They don't happen overnight. And you can never, ever, ever look at somebody else and say, I need to be where he is or where she is, because everybody's on a journey. And it's not a matter of you being perfectly walking alongside somebody else. It's a matter of you learning about yourself, your body, knowing paying attention to how you feel, and like I said, first adding in the good stuff, then starting to make those swaps. And I can tell you that I sit here now feeling better than I have ever, ever, ever felt in my entire life. I just feel phenomenal. I wish that I would have known these things before I got into my 40s, but I didn't. And I know them now, and so that is why I try and teach what I am learning to all of you, and know that, it is my true passion to help you make these changes that you need to make. And it's a process, and if you want help, I'm here for you. But I do thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, this is the third and final part of this particular series of videos, so if you missed the first two, you can go back down my page and see the first and the second part of that. And I have lots more to share in this area, but this is the end of this particular series. So if there's ever an area that you want to know more about, please feel free to reach out, message me, tell me I need to know about whatever, and I will do my best to get that information to you, or at least point you in the right direction where you can get some of that information. So I hope everybody has a super weekend and a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.